person's got very little teaching experience and has been just drilled to follow certain academic traditions, to do all this kind of stuff, and really has kind of people sitting on both shoulders looking over that, are you doing this right? Are you teaching? How would you recommend that they move from that position of essentially being worried about their students, worried about whether they're doing the right thing, worried about whether they're teaching the curriculum properly, etc., to where they really do get to that state that you described very, very well, where they feel that they own it?
Well, that's tough because, especially in the humanities, doctoral programs do not train you to teach. They generally train you to be subject matter experts, and if you go immediately into an R1 institution where you are going to be doing nothing but your field with graduate students, you may or may not be okay. You still have to teach some. But certainly if you're going to go and teach more often, you're left sort of to swim on your own. So that's a really good question. I would recommend starting simple. Course design is easy to get bogged down in. I've done a fair amount of it, and you can easily get bogged down in it. The best way, I think, to approach it is to start out with some simple outcomes. What do I want to do in this class? When the bell rings on the last day of class, what do I want these students to know? The basics, just really, what can I not live without? And then you say, okay, how can I get there? And you say, what are my strengths? And let's play to those. When I first started my first course teaching as an independent teacher in the classroom many years ago at a large state university was a survey of history class. And, they gave you the assignment, and that was it. You chose your book, you chose everything you wanted to, and it was rather frightening in a sense. So you just decide, okay, what am I familiar with? And you start with that. So what had I done at a TA? What had I done before? What I had seen other people do? You start with something familiar. You have very simple goals. I want students to know these things when they come out of it. And then as you go through it and you get more experienced in it, you start to add on things. Okay, now they're learning this, but I want them to learn in this particular way. Or I think we need this assignment that will back off of the quizzes now and do it more dynamically. But don't worry about that up front. Don't try to jump too far ahead. Start simple with simple goals. Be true to yourself. Play to your strengths. If you're really a good lecturer, you might start out with more lecture than you really want to. We all want to get to teaching with our mouth shut, but you might start out for your own mental health and sanity and your students' sake doing something you're really good at, and then slowly broaden it up with discussion. Don't try to do it all in 1 year, 1 semester. That would be my main thing. And most of all, you rock. You're confident. You be confident. You know what you're doing there. Don't let anybody tell you you don't. When at the end of the day, you still know more about the subject than anybody else in the room. And if you have to rely on that, rely on it. And the students aren't your enemies. I mean, most of the time they want to have a decent time in there. So they'll work with you. Just do it that way and take it easy. Don't do too much. That's what I would say.
Nice.
That's great.
That's really great.
Wonderful stuff.
What time?
Talk to me about one way in which an individual institution, whether it be Champlain or some other institution, has done one thing that directly or indirectly made you feel more confident or more inspired about what you were teaching, what you were doing.
Well, for me, that would have to be our core curriculum, which a decision Champlain made some years ago to revamp our entire general education curriculum, to go from a menu approach that was fairly standard to a 4-year interdisciplinary integrated curriculum that moves students mostly in cadres, or cohorts, that emphasizes the inquiry method, sort of problem-based, a lot of primary text, a de-emphasis of textbooks and quizzes, and emphasis on projects and writing and other sort of in-depth analytical activities. That decision to shift Champlain into a new sort of era of general education where the faculty and the students are more interested in questions rather than rote answers, where we're trying to work on getting people to think and to become broad-based in their inquiries and to be disciplined in their intellectual activity. And along the way learn content too, but the focus is on making them better professionals in whatever field they go into and better citizens when they're out there. That was a fundamentally important decision, I think, that this college made. And I think we're already seeing the fruits of it. It's a difficult process. It's not an easy process to go through, and there are always bumps in the road. But we're already starting to see students who are getting it, faculty who are getting it, and employers who are getting it. So as a professionally focused institution, I think it was vital for Champlain to make that move to increase and maintain the validity and integrity of our programs, and to make sure that our professional students coming out of here are not just well positioned, but positioned ahead of, I think, the students at other institutions that aren't taking that approach. As me personally, as a faculty member, in being involved heavily in the design of the system, it's been very inspiring. But also to be able to go into a classroom knowing that what we're doing is not only on the cutting edge, go to conferences and people laud us for it and such, but really does work, and it's better for the faculty and better for the students in the long run. It got really boring teaching the same, world civ or American history stuff year after year. Now every class is different. Even though it's the same class you taught last year, it's different because of the method, the inquiry, what type of text that are used, and the interaction with the students and the way they drive a lot of the questions. So I think that was one of the most fundamental things that happened here that really got me inspired.
Great.
Really nice.
And a little plug for Champlain.
That was good.